but they seem to have a lot of problems when it comes to the change of tense, etc. when you're moving from direct to indirect. Change of time, space, diacritic markers, pronouns start shifting, first person goes to third person, tense markings from present to past, etc. And then you have, as I said, free reported speech, which is not very in English. But when we speak English, Indians, we tend to use very, very frequently this type of structure, free reported speech. And you don't have any punctuation markers. Your absence of the K marker or the WH marker which you would have in English, this, that, who, etc., which normally mark indirect speech. Now, I will not go into this much in detail, but we have a very complex structure in Indian languages. We divide them into three parts. Urdu, Hindi, Punjabi are like English. We are moving practically towards an analytical system. Very little inflection. If you are coming to Marathi, Bangla, Gujarati, Assami, Udiya, they have about 6 to 7 suffixes joined together and that's it. But if you come to Dravidian languages like Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam and Tibeto-Burman, for example, Bodo, Manipuri, Kokborok, etc., there is the same story. You can go up to 16, 17, 18 suffixes all joined together with a type of morphophonemics entering inside. So this is the type of classification we have admitted for Indian languages. And as I said, movement with type 1 languages, which have very little inflection, is very easy. But when you are moving from type 1 to type 2, you are translating, say, from Hindi into type 2 languages, into Marathi or Gujarati, you are going to face problems. And the type 3 languages create the maximum amount of problems because of the highly agglutinating nature of these languages. Now here I have got some examples of morphology, morphotactics. I won't go into them, we have very little time, so I'll just shift very rapidly. But you can see here something which is very interesting. You can see Marathi Tevla Varchats, which is from this very table. Gujarati, again the example which we had given earlier. You can see everything is all written together. So if I want to say from this very table, we took the book from this very table, in Marathi I just said in one word, Tevla Varchats or Tevla Varchits. It depends on masculine or feminine marking. You can see here Sandhi, Maram and Id in Tamil becomes Marattil. You bring Maram, which is a tree, and Il, which is a suffix marker, you join them together, you are not going Maramil, it's Marattil. So the reverse, when you try to dissolve the Sandhi, is itself a big problem. You can see vowel harmony which exists in languages like Bangla, for example. You can see here, for example, I'll give you this, Ami Janlam, Tui Janli, Tumi Janle, She Janlo. But you can see in Chenna, for example, which is to teach, you can see Chenna, Ami Chinlam, Tui Chinli, Tumi Chinle. Every time the suffixes start changing shape. This is known as vowel harmony, which is very typical of Bangla, Assamese, and to a certain extent Manipuri. Not much, but mainly these two languages admitted. This is the problem of Urdu, which I was explaining. Here you can see you only have two forms, which is Aleph and Sin, Aleph, Vav and Re. But this can mean and or it can mean in the direction of. It can mean both. Similarly, here you have A and S. It could mean both this or that. I think I'm getting clear signals. They're spilling over. Yeah. Okay. I'll go to this. I'll let this go. And this also, you can see. Now I'm just coming to the last part with the syntax. Here you have a large set of, this is a real true test bed of testing translation. Here you have noun paradigms, verb paradigms, which you can see here. You have transformations which occur, question types, negation, passive and causal, reflexives, complex and compound sentences, and we have created a full test bed of nearly 17,000 sentences. So at present we have test beds for English. Moving from English, it tests all systems, whether it is English to French, you can test it because the test bed is indifferent, it is testing structures. So there are 17,000 basic structures which we will try to identify. 1700, I'm sorry. Basic structures we will try to identify. In Hindi, we have got 3,300. And here you have got some examples of, this is a meta structure of, I'll give you the results later. We fed these into Google and we found that Google Trans for Hindi, for example, gave an output of about, when we fed it about 6 months back, it gave an output of 30%. Today it gives you 40% accuracy, but there's a limit. Took a lot of effort, but you can see as a testbed, it just goes on and on. And finally, we talk of norms compliance. This is something Mr. Kulkarni mentioned. It's funny, we have no standards and yet we have standards. There are books which mandate, it has to be written like that. Urdu, there is something known as the Imla Nama. Imla is the spelling, and which tells you this how it has to be spelled. In Bangla, there is a Bangla Academy which just lays down all the statutes saying this word has to be spelled in this way, like the French dictionary. It lays down the whole spelling has to be this way. And finally, storage norms. We test whether the machine transit system complies with the. The last thing, which is a delicate issue, and I end there, is the problem of culture sensitivity. You can see here, these are live examples. You can see we tested, we gave you old cow and the machine gave old cow. That's it. Those we are familiar with English know what an old cow is. Normally not a polite word to use. Calling a woman an old cow is not a very polite thing. But the machine transition failed.